Hello, this is about the identity slash S of truth. For example, criminal insidiousness natures use truths to exploit exceptions in exception nature. They use truth for lies. They use identities of positive that aren't really positive. They are identities of positive that aren't really positive. Criminal insidiousness natures like wrongdoers, wrongdoing. For example, one thing that is true always and does not deny any exceptions is that Black Lives Matter. See, now that's being used for a magic trick, offensively, to make exceptions in exception nature, created where and how, interbranch all private tied to them, and hundreds of nations shared here and there. Identities of the law, everything other. Identity ground locations. They are kept needing to hide lie progressions. They are needing to hide sequence shifts. They are needing to hide remote uses of the World Trade Center before the attack, in the attack context and since, and with the investigators. Now, see, this is also what keeps our sanctioning bodies, the only one people that they have to counter overtly sick things that need to be countered, like things that escalate to war. All that tied with it originally still, criminally foreign influence, delusions rot. They have delusions also when they speak for black people, our leaders, including black and white, intercultural. Not one person has spoken for black people, honestly, but as criminal insidiousness nature of truth used. So tall locations, names of people, sequence, treatments of positive and negative, they already used that. They already have to hide lies, had to use investigations, investigators, and vetting identities in collusion with that which is all locations originally and still criminally foreign influence, in layers of motivations, natures, needs, interests, styles of liars pretending to be other per a predicate acts delivery system method. That's what American history is about. Our founding parents didn't have that entrenched here. A predicate acts delivery system method was entrenched here. North and South with slavery. They only had one method of forcing everyone to come out of slavery, and they have to take positions so that people would see. But they're covering up because they never stopped with the databases. Since before computers, the stewards from off those locations, on and off those locations further and further, keeping those locations all lie progressions right back to all locations. Needed to keep each age of correlation natures actually inherent active and progressive means. But now through juxtaposed natures of criminal insidiousness, natures of organized crime, natures of war crime roles, natures of identity theft and frauds roles. See, there are identity thefts and frauds against black people that are timed in positions from when they are youth to when they are adults, sickly distinctly, from how there are identity thefts and frauds against us in suburbs, in areas not what they call black areas, which was engineered by the predicate acts delivery system method, that they force, blamed on our founding parents dishonestly, preventing evidences, for example, what is actually recorded, mandated law, what is actually recorded. We have our intelligence community vetting of people, what people say, criminally foreign influence, delusions rot. They can't defend that and afford the quality of fact-sheeting nature necessary to interpret the long words and the short words of our founding parents who didn't have free speech just because they had put the Constitution up. Free speech would have revealed free science, and that would have revealed and does reveal the answer /S to how to overcome all the actually recorded manifest causes for all kinds of statistically manifest sick things, and for the causes of people uses of motivated to use studies of such to cover up their own life progressions, those of their family members. This is how identity ground locations are used. Further intercampuses of each age and nature tied, including homeschool, because this is how I was using correlation natures, actual course. I'll drop the force. That's the force. That's from it's used wrong in math. It's used wrong by the movie making company, the cinema film making company. With Star Wars. Because they need to keep the Trinity obfuscated. So they hear me say this, they'll start talking about it. But they always leave out parts. Because this shows that value/value. They are not just life progressions right back to all locations. That is how, as victims, they covering up as victim predators, because that was maintained. They would self-value that. They wouldn't fathom how they would need to, because these are completely fact-cheating nature-oriented predicate acts when it comes to their opinions regarding black and white, when they know what is actually recorded are bonded natures of organized crime upon locations like where there are a lot of shootings. Those kids were the victims, are the victims and of what their parents were already victims to, which is sustained a distinct nature of child abuse against each age and nature of campus. These are our medical campuses. These are our fire campuses. Simultaneously, these are private campuses. These are research campuses. These are involved with life progressions right back to all identity ground locations. And there's a method to that was perfected that here and in the surface nations that colonized here. This came before their founders also. You could be a king or a pharaoh in collusion with other kings and queens. And still, if you're above all locations, areas, and states criminally foreign influenced, you're above all locations, states, and areas as criminally foreign influenced premises treatments, positive and negative treatments, as styles of logic that are criminally foreign influenced delusions wrought simultaneously. So it's mixed in where it's hard to tell. I mean, in other words, because they have the violence and they're pretending to be against such simultaneously. We have fact, cheating nature, evidence racketeering, worse than war crimes. Here, there, maintain self-value. Then they have comparisons to other nations. They need to offensively pretend they believe, because they can't discern America's identity through correlation natures, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means and needs to. But they can't afford that to be discerned. Correlations, course, the way of things. So there are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and of negative treatments that are in collusion with all identity ground locations. And that was to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. They effectively maintain all identities of the law, all identities of database relationships, all identities of sciences relationships, in collusion against correlation nature's identity of value progression. It is one identity of volume. How it is three bonded identities of volume is a demonstration of that. How it is exceptions in exception nature is how it is five bonded identities of sequence nature, also in demonstration of the same thing. How it is three invisible but still discernible identities of one identity's hierarchy as its identity of relationship to itself, and as the value of that, increasing only those three things. The increase of that came since before matter, that generated and is generating why and how the cell nucleus, cell body, and the cell wall are manifest. Note, cell walls connecting to show us the body of value. I am not a lawyer, not a police form, not a criminal, not a doctor. We're going to delineate the delusions from the experts of each of the sciences. We have to have mandated law followed. I'm using evidences in relationship to how the interbranch forged names and switched names while fabricating audio and video into databases. Interbranch. And this is through other nations that already use them, through administrations used remotely, forced to self-value roles with it. Obama wouldn't want that, but that's what he was forced to self-value roles with. WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, intercampuses of each age and nature through time. I just remind, boxings, so I tell you things and loan. Follow mandated law for Connecticut interbranch. Respond for them. They use crime methods of attaching everyone around you to conversations about what they don't even know about, so they can use whatever they say, that they make a response for someone, and they just add fake things. They're using truths for lies, and they're just totally making things up again. Further, with the principal child offenders campus, then and now, I caught them forcing that sustained while doing such. The same people involved intercities with predicate acts at the same time that were involved on illusions, though, on and off the campus of Trinity College, on and off the campus of CCSU connected. Investigators, investigations, and vetting identities. People and their family members associated with the various natures of courts and police forms leading up to, even former director of the FBI and his co-defendants, leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it, involved with these other natures of organized crime acts on and off child campuses, on and off job sites, on and off union places, on and off the sensibilities with fake sides of correlation. We had never had a legitimate identity of the law speak for any of us. So it's increasingly, if it's of increasing importance, where and how they're being exploited, needed to pretend to be for what they're against, which is black rights, and how they're and have been influencing others, speaking through others, while they're forging names, switching names into branches, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously sickly, criminally foreign influenced, and delusions wrought. So they can't follow mandated law. So they've been sustaining all that's tied to them forging, switching names. See how the officers call here again from town offices, Weathersfield Police Department, switching names, forging names, and they brought the name Sullivan in. There are a whole bunch of people with the name Sullivan associated with the Park Street location that is involved with FBI and with CIA and their family members, and with the schools, with the child campuses that are involved with the predicate acts on and off CCSU through time, Trinity College connected. They're also using the identities of the campuses, which has nothing to do with the physical acts and inactions taken by the people with those locations, and or made up for them also. So they also how they have the family members and neighbors of people involved. Because this is how they're exploiting how we are a value progression. Per how they are exploited. To keep them victim predators. Overt predators though. Breaching method. Effectively maintained. Used remotely. Needing to hide the same things. Same sequence shifts. Finite lies. Active lies. Progressive lies. Identity thefts, frauds, and worse than that. Note how they leave out the identity thefts and frauds. You think identity of the law with integrity spoke for any of us, of the species identity of volume, of correlation nature. So they're making fake sides, fake representatives of those fake sides, and they're preventing mandated law, and they're making allegations against who uses logic, not criminally foreign influenced. And they are sequence shifting and wanting to debate things out of sequence. That's why they're not following mandated law. because of crime acts and methods they have regarding, they make people use bad language and things online so they can pretend to be about hate. The sequence shifts reveal this. Their roles with predicate acts and with worse than criminal incompetence and physical delusions reveal this. So we have to be able to counter the physical delusions that interbranch has in collusion with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and other nations here and there, and military, foreign and domestic. And worse, all bonded, kept used remotely for the fact-cheating nature styles they need, because they need how there are recorded, actual science has means to demonstrate there are recorded bonded natures of organized crime, also upon all locations, while the lie progressions from the interbranch are in there, self-valuing that. That's why and how they can't afford what is simple about American history to discern, to have it discerned, to have all its evidences fall into place. All pays. So respond for Wethersfield, Connecticut interbranch now.